Okay, hey guys, how are you? Urban myth and stuff like that. Some girls reporting on the Urban Myth channel, which is my weird channel. I still honestly don't have any exciting Sparkle Markle news. It's just talk about oh shoot, hang on. Talk about boring. What a boring chick. Um, you know, just really a boring chick. Who is just a fake. Everything about her is fake. Um, wondering. Okay, picking up part two from what I put out there. I was trying to go through it, but then YouTube. It takes so long to edit. They have to go through checks to make sure I'm not doing anything wrong. I hate that. All right, so you have Stu Peters. We ended with that. I wanted to keep going with it, but let's break that off. Okay, and go in another direction. Okay, so here we go. Um, and if I pause, this is really weird. Every time I pause a video and get up to even just do something small, um, the audio crackles, and I don't know why that is. So, but so I really can't pause videos. I have to do them in two parts now. Although, I mean, I should be able to, but okay. So we were in the middle of that stew thing. And, I watched it twice. And I'm going, oh my God, I have so much I want to share. Um, okay. This thing with the, oh, great. This thing with the ads. Ugh. Well, first of all, let's do this. So that Stu Peters thing that I'm in the middle of showing you guys, which we will finish up, I watched it 3 times because I wanted to really let it sink in. I was trying to really figure out what is going on exactly with oh great, this John Locke guy. Or is that his name? Oh, Greg Locke. He is weird as fuck. Now, I might insult some of you guys on this. I mean, I don't understand this brand of sort of, I call it shoebox Christianity, where like a tent is raised and someone runs around the stage and yells a lot of stuff, and everyone is just like, feels that they need that to get to God. People don't, and please don't tune out. And I know a lot of people here do not understand Catholicism. I really didn't until, I mean, really truly understand it. Or that's not a good word. Well, possibly. Okay, because I was forced. I mean, I really was forced to go to church. Um, and then I went on my own when I, wasn't living with my mom and dad who forced me to. And I, was really kind of getting into, the John Paul II thing, who there is such there is a lot of crookedness that goes on. I know you guys wouldn't be interested in this in the Catholic Church. There is a lot of Masonic bullshit that goes on. It is really bad. Um, I believe they've murdered these popes. I don't agree with the one that's in there now, and I totally didn't like the other one. I mean, they are trying to subvert it in ways that I disagree with. And I'm going to tell you, as of, since Francis was in there and shit, I mean, generally speaking, I was unable to go to Mass, even though that's actually considered, I mean, that's the first commandment, isn't it? But, and I know this. Hold on a minute. I apologize. What I'm trying to get at is I find so much of what he did to the Mass and the scripture and everything, he changed everything. And I don't recognize it and I don't like it. And I will just say out loud the old words of the Mass. I won't say the new Nicene Creed. I just refuse to. And so I have a lot of disagreements with it. So I'm not saying there isn't corruption, because I know damn well there is. A lot of people say, well, a lot of these okay, so maybe some of them had Jewish blood. I mean, I don't know. I think I might, my maternal grandmother, I mean, her last name is undoubtedly quite Jewish. Then again, it's also seen as German. So, but then again, Netanyahu, his real name is Milikowski, and he's a Polish guy, So, okay, I thought he was born in Poland, but whatever. A lot of these, okay, let's end it there. It seems like that topic is being forced on us as a topic of conversation right now, even though they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. But people are talking about it, and isn't it good that people are talking about it? I don't know. It seems like a diversion to me. So, I mean, people, yeah, I mean, I believe, yes, there is a genocide going on. It's very serious. But, and what's happening with Trump and Miriam Adelson and all these people, I don't like it. And what's his name? Ivanka's husband. Ugh. And his father and all. These are dirty people. These are not good people. I don't believe they are. Okay. So I found this. Here is this Greg Locke guy speaking to Owen Schweier. I may have to adjust the volume, so just letting you know.
People, there's no starvation going on in Gaza. They did.
Now, Charlie Kirk was saying the same thing. I don't believe he was turning on anyone and Israel had him whacked. I think that is the story that they are trying to ramp up and create and put out there. And like 5 years from now, it's going to be called a conspiracy theory, but then people will keep saying, oh, the Jews killed Charlie Kirk. No. Nothing happened to him. I don't know what it was. I don't think it had anything to do with his current political beliefs. Yeah, I've seen the Megyn Kelly thing with Tucker, and I don't like any of these people, you guys. I mean, I really don't. If I don't like someone and I can just look at them and listen to them, and I'll listen to them several times and I'll just say, you know what? I don't like this person. They're bullshit. They're doing a shtick. They hated Trump. Oh, they changed. They changed. Did they? Okay, I don't believe it. So, without further ado, here's this Greg Locke guy speaking about a bunch of weird BS.
Dealing with the media, dealing with the politicians. But hey, you know what happens when you send a criminal referral to Pam Bondi's desk. Everybody knows what happens now.
Let me go back.
Nothing. Nothing happens.
It's not the Hamas American super PAC, but there's no doubt that the Islamic regime is putting more money into the propaganda of the videos than Israel, because Israel's not trying to fight from a social media standpoint.
Just watch this guy. He has a condo in Israel, and the money he raised to get it seemed to me, based on me listening to this chick that used to belong to his church, seemed to me that he was stealing money from his congregants. He was having people take 10 up to 10 or whatever the legal limit of cash is to, go from the US to Israel in a suitcase. He was doing, quote, tours of Israel, and then having the people he took on these tours with him carry up to $10,000 worth of cash on them. So this guy is super dirty, and I didn't know anything about it. And then I'm watching this and just watch the way he behaves and sort of like the scripty stuff that's coming out of his mouth.
They're trying to fight the ground game.
I think a lot of things get misinterpreted. And, I saw the comments, and I guess this is how you ended up coming in. And
Owen was still on InfoWars when this was done. And Owen, his show is in the toilet right now, as far as I'm concerned. He's like a milquetoast guy, going over Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens' Twitter accounts, then having double agent Ivan Raiklin come in there, these are all Army intel, former, but they're not really former, but let's stay on topic. I mean, this is what I believe. And you have Bongino, who owns this platform. And he is his job right now is to fully infiltrate the media with this bullshit. Fully and completely. And create various operatives from various people that are are you guys aware that they are getting paid $7,000 per post on X to post certain things, certain points? Megyn Kelly wanted it so bad, and she finally has it. She changed her hair. She's super anorexic looking. I mean, I have no problem with someone being tall and slim, but she's doing a shtick that includes her current hair color and extensions. And she has a chin implant for sure. But let's just keep going. I mean, she changed her entire look. She looks bad. That was not how she naturally looked. Okay.
And doing the show with Alex today, too, when you were speaking at a conference about Candace and everything. And I think that all these different dissenting voices kind of get lumped into one.
Oh my God, she's controlled opposition against the mainstream news narrative. Plus, she's worth billions. All right, let's go. Hundreds of billions. And she was really flaunting it. I saw she did a show in a CIA t-shirt. That's called Duper's Delight, my friends. And her pumping out babies with this guy that looks flat out gay. I don't know. Okay.
Whether it's Candace or Fuentes or even Alex at times or myself or others. And I think there's a lot of different things here. Like, I don't want to involve with any of them. Honestly.
They all start at age 17, 18. They put in some time in college. Sometimes they graduate. In the case of Tucker, he did, but he probably felt like the grift was too easy. Plus, he was going down to Nicaragua more than once to do regime change because he thought it was a good cause. And nobody is alarmed by that. Nobody is like, whoa, wait a second. Plus, he applied to the CIA. Whoa, no, but that's okay. I mean, yeah, that was when he was in college. Like, who cares? Like, come on. So look at this fraud.
I'm sick of Israel. I'm sick of the Palestinians. I'm sick of all of them. I got my own problems in my country. I've grown up in a country where every metropolitan area is decaying.
Yeah.
I see our money.
The chasm between descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, 100%. Me and Alex even talked about it. People are like, well, we just believe they're fake Jews. It just doesn't work that way, because here's one of the reasons that the chasm between what we believe cannot be narrowed, especially in 30 minutes, because I'm going to come solely from a theological standpoint, and you're going to see it solely from a either media infused or
political. I would say, political
standpoint,
100%.
which is fine, which I understand. But I'm going to see things totally different, because obviously I think we ought to be America first. But I also understand the fact that God says that America will be blessed if we do stand with to some.
See how he's doing the thing with the thumb? I was watching another video recently where this, if you bend your thumb like that, and and what is this tattoo?
Great degree.
This is where I think we come into an issue, because I from my perspective, and I don't know,
and he has to be so careful, but now he's being even more careful. Now he's not even interesting. His whole week sucked. And he's a good-looking guy. He could really be something and do something. He chooses not to.
May disagree, but it seems to me on the right wing, especially with electing Donald Trump twice, we all agree that...
Well, it was 3 times, but you go ahead.
America is heading in the wrong direction. I think we all agree that. So how can we claim that we've been blessed for supporting Israel all these years when clearly America has suffered since go and kiss the Wailing Wall?
Joe Biden was not very friendly towards the Jewish people. He would have done everything he could.
That wasn't the question.
And what's that?
Name a president that didn't kiss the Wailing Wall.
He amped up. Well, he amped up. He began this thing. This thing was on his watch. And it was his State Department. I mean, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, went over there and said, I come today as a Jew. And they supplied them with, and they're letting it happen intentionally. They started this shit in Ukraine. They started it actually, well, in 2014. This is really dirty. Then you have this Max Blumenthal character. Now, I find this stuff at like 2, 3 in the morning, and then I bookmark it, and then I have trouble finding it again, or I forgot to bookmark it. But I had a really hard time. Whenever you're trying to dig up dirt on someone that you know there is dirt on them, and you've seen it before, you've read it before, and you know it because you remember what happened during the 90s, during Trump's first campaign, when Hillary was Secretary of State. I mean, hell, you could go back to when JFK Jr. was, I believe, killed by Hillary. And I mean, do I know this is a fact, YouTube? No, I don't. But it's just a thought that I have because she wanted that Senate seat. Now you've got Schlossberg, the grandson, who I'm sure dyes his hair. His father was he had premature gray hair. His mother has been a blonde or light brown hair her whole life. I think she goes gray now. She's actually quite scary looking. And she's really weird. I mean, that chick is gone mentally. And I followed JFK Jr. when he started George Magazine. And he was even advertising that magazine on Rush Limbaugh's show in the 90s. So I subscribed to it. And I read the articles. I didn't subscribe to it just for the fuck of it. And they were actually interesting. we had a high taxation rate in this country, and it has never gone back up to that. Maybe there were things tweaked around it that makes it shitty. But I mean, the income tax, the federal income tax and our state income tax at the time was exorbitant. I mean, if you were making like back in the 90s, mid to late, if you were making like 50, 60,000 a year, I mean, you were paying a hell of a lot of that in taxes. And if you were self-employed or had a home office, you had to pay recycling tax, even if you weren't doing anything with a lot of paper. Just everything, self-employment tax along with everything else that a normal person would pay. Can you imagine starting a business and then having to pay self-employment tax? It's probably still there. I'm sure it is. But the recycling tax, that was ridiculous. I spent most of the time on the road. I was typing letters. I saved most of my files, though. I wasn't dumping them in a garbage. I mean, whatever. Okay, let's go.
I have no idea on who did or did not kiss the wedding.
JFK.
JFK.
Only one.
Okay.
We all know what happened to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just saying there is no...
Because we have bad leadership. That's not an issue.
Blessed because of our bad leadership that supports America.
Oh, America's blessed. So there's no way around that. We're a superpower, politically. We're a superpower economically. We're a superpower militarily. But I'm telling you, we would be just like any other normal nation had we not stood and had an alliance with them for all of these years. Look at all the other nations that have stood against Israel. It hasn't boded very well for them. We just know how the end looks. And the end looks, every nation, Zechariah 12:9 says, every nation that fights against Israel, the Bible says, it's very graphic, God will burn their eyes out. God is going to bring every nation that fights Israel and that does not stand for the covenant of the Jewish people, not their government, right? God's not in a covenant with Netanyahu and the government of Israel. He's in a covenant with the people of Israel. And we have a biblical justification to stand with them, not to broad stroke all the bad decisions and the wars and the things that come to the table, to stand with the people in general. That's why we have a hard time generationally making the connection, because they are going to look at it strictly political, and I'm going to look at it strictly theological, which that's my worldview, because I believe my theology affects my politics.
Well, I would say, even if we wanted to get theological,
his theology affects his politics, but he's bringing tens of thousands of dollars in there. He's got a condo there, and he spends a lot of time there.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm convinced. In fact, I would say I'm not convinced.
Sure.
What I'm trying to say is I think something dirty is going on here with this guy. And I think it's more than just what he calls his theology. I don't think he is theological. I need to mention something else. This Harrison Smith jackass, who looks like just the biggest moron that never showers. He took anyone that subscribed to Owen Schroyer and switched the account over to his name and took all of Owen's followers. So if you're on Rumble following this guy or wherever the hell he posts, just know that. I was going through that. I don't like the guy. I think he's a kookball. Just the way I don't like the way he speaks, the way he looks, the way he dresses, his hair. He's a slob. Okay, there. I'm sorry. All right, now let's go to, we're finished with that for now. So the way this guy is talking, and we'll go to more. So this is, again, Jim Jones, who basically led a cult. All right.
Established a pulpit on the street corners of Richmond, Indiana, where he sold monkeys door to door in order to fund his activities. There he came to know a juvenile police officer named Dan Matron. whose improbable path Jones would cross and recross in the years ahead.
Because he went to go work for the agency, that's why. Let's keep going.
By the late 1950s, Jones had married his high school sweetheart, Marceline, and established an interracial church based in Indianapolis. He called it the People's Temple. At first, the church prospered, but Jones had a secret life. Matrone left Richmond and joined a sometime CIA cover at the State Department. Coincidentally or not, Jones suddenly became of deep interest to the most clandestine department of the agency, whose activities included mind control experiments, attempts to assassinate Fidel Castro, and operations to infiltrate and disrupt black organizations. For reasons that the CIA has always refused to explain, they opened a secret file in Jones' name. Suddenly, Jones abandoned his church, and armed with 2 passports, the young charismatic preacher traveled to a series of political hotspots: Mexico, Cuba, Guyana, and Brazil. Though he spoke no Portuguese, in 1962, Jones moved to Belo Horizonte, a small town in Brazil. With no apparent means of support, he rented an expensive house and began to make in-depth studies into voodoo, faith healing, mass conversion, and ESP, a key investigative element of the CIA's mind control program. But Jones was not the only person there from Richmond, Indiana. He later bragged of visits to his neighbor, Dan Matrone. The former police chief was now working for a sometime CIA cover at the U.S. consulate, training Brazilian police in the subtleties of hostile interrogation. Jones was also contacted by another key member of American intelligence at that time, John Lodison, who'd been kicked out of the Soviet Union for spying. In Brazil, he met with Jones for reasons that the CIA still refuses to explain. But Jones' stay in Brazil did not last. He left the country soon after a newspaper article appeared claiming he was a CIA agent. Returning to...
By the way, I'm sorry for the blurry video. It gets better, I think, but I know I've done this one before, in case you're wondering. Okay.
The USA, Jones moved the People's Temple to Northern California, where its membership grew rapidly.
Wait a minute. Let's go back.
Agent. Returning to the USA, Jones moved the People's Temple to Northern California.
So he was basically being trained on mind control experiments and just had tinkered with governments we were trying to overthrow down there, or in South America. And Cuba, Mexico, Brazil, and Guyana, I believe is what they said. Wow. Okay. We know what happened from there.
California, where its membership grew rapidly.
Jones flourished in San Francisco's cult-worshipping atmosphere.
Oh, by the way, he eventually moved this into an old Masonic temple. Just saying.
Membership in his People's Temple swelled to nearly 20,000 as his reputation grew, and he started food kitchens and daycare centers. He particularly targeted minorities. Believing that the ends justified the means, he put on fake displays of healing and said that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
What's your snide on every other? You asked and begged and pleaded for help with your suffering, and he never gave you any food. He never provided a bed. He never gave you a home. But I, the socialist worker, have given you all those things. Stop saying it. And you won't die if you trouble. You will die if you stand up.
All right, I'm going to end it there for a second. Okay, I mean, are you getting a feel for where I'm going with this? My question is, why does that Greg Locke dude, why is he, okay. He's weird. But I'm going to let you hear more about him from this interview. Now, Stu says he's a bounty hunter. I don't know when he initially reported this because there is a Christmas theme behind him. He posted this either yesterday or the day before. And I didn't like watching it because after the third time I watched it, I felt almost dirty. With the way Stu talks about all this weird kind of spirituality stuff, and he's looking for the Holy Spirit through a preacher. Well, I'm sorry to say, but Holy Spirit comes from God, from Jesus, or from Jesus through God, but this is, sometimes you feel that though. You feel overcome, if you pray or you just are feeling in a real sort of prayerful spiritual mood, you get that. People get that feeling. I suppose not all people, but I sure do. But it just doesn't come to you through some other person standing on a stage. These are my opinions only. I mean, you guys could totally be turned off by what I'm saying. That's just, okay, it's
Chapel. But the takeaway here is that there is a sickness that's plaguing American Christianity.
See,
and that's
he talks about this in a way that just is slightly creepy for me. I mean, not at first, but if you go back and listen to it over and over, it's like, God, you're weird. He's desperately searching. I don't know what he did as a bounty hunter or what his real job is, but it seems almost to me like he's looking for some sort of redemption for some bad shit that he did in his life. That's just my takeaway. And then he's trying so hard to become relevant and to become important and all this stuff. All right, he tries too hard and cries about it too much, but that's just my opinion.
sickness is being spread by these Zionist, Schofield, Bible-thumping fake pastors like Mike Montgomery, who are deliberately leading their flocks away from Jesus Christ and toward the Jew and the modern-day nation-state of Israel. And this is not an isolated issue. This doesn't only take place at Calvary Chapel in Red Wing. No, this is widespread. This is the real pandemic.
That was something weird happened with some pastor, whatever that is. I would prefer saying minister. I mean, what is a pastor? I could be a pastor, I suppose. Okay. It's usually the head of a church, right? And this guy did something to Stu and went and did something to his property and destroyed one of his boats, I guess. But let's keep going.
Just think of all of the fake pastors and devil preachers that you see online or on TV. People like John Hagee, the founder of Christians United for Israel, the biggest Zionist lobby group in the United States. Hagee quite literally worships Jews. Seriously, he says that Jesus Christ is coming back as a Jewish rabbi and that Christians will be judged not on...
I have heard Charlie Kirk say that, and I heard it. It was either YouTube or Rumble video, and I'll be damned if I can find it again. Charlie Kirk was having a discussion with one of these students or whatever the hell they called it. And he said, when you die, you will be greeted by a rabbinical rabbi by the name of Jesus. You guys, that's weird. They're saying Jesus is a rabbi in heaven. And I heard him say that. And for anyone to think that he was turning against that, boy, that must have been one hell of a U-turn. And Candace, she's got text messages. Oh, really? She has hundreds of billions of dollars. She could hire someone to like do something that looks like a text message. That's why I think, you got to be so careful with your social media stuff. Okay.
On following God's commands or living a biblically sound life, but based on how you treated the Jews. And he's not quiet about this. He's not shy about this. These aren't things that he says in private or in secret. He says these things out loud and he means them. Look.
Don't ever forget, Jesus is a Jewish person. He's coming back as a Jewish rabbi. If there's something in you that does not like Jews, that's an evil spirit. You're an anti-Semite and need to get your head straight.
Oh, please.
I mean, this is just absolutely sick.
Yeah.
But it gets even worse if you can imagine that being possible. John Hagee actually says that Jesus Christ never claimed to be the Messiah.
Okay.
And that's why the Jews can't be blamed for killing him and for begging for his blood to be on the hands of their children for all of eternity. Isn't that convenient? Take a look.
I'm delighted to present my latest book, In Defense of Israel. This book will expose the sins of the fathers and the vicious abuse of the Jewish people. In Defense of Israel will shape Christian theology. It scripturally proves that the Jewish people as a whole did not reject Jesus as Messiah. It will also prove that Jesus did not come to earth to be the Messiah. It will prove that there was a Calvary conspiracy between Rome, the high priest, and Herod to execute Jesus as an insurrectionist too dangerous to live. Since Jesus refused by word and deed to claim to be the Messiah, how can the Jews be blamed for rejecting what was never offered? Read it in this shocking expose, In Defense of Israel.
That is a so-called Christian pastor declaring that Jesus Christ never claimed to be the Messiah. And people will listen to that, and they will go and they will buy that book. And they will believe, because John Hagee said it, that Jesus Christ never claimed to be the Messiah. So who could blame the Jews for killing him? He was a liar. He never claimed to be the Messiah. John Hagee, just like so many of these other fake Christian pastors, is a liar. If you're wondering, it's right there in your Bible. For instance, in the book of Mark, chapter 14, the best suits his wallet. But the only one is Jesus Christ.
Okay, keep going.
The entire concept of the crusade, to lead as many Christian souls to the pits of hell as possible.
Here's one.
That is a Christian pastor on national. Another one of these people is called Robert Jeffress, among others. Now, many of you have probably seen Jeffress on TV. He makes plenty of appearances on the Fox News channel where he goes on to berate Christians into voting for Trump in the name of Israel. Take a look.
If you hate Israel, vote Democrat. If you love Israel, vote for Donald J. Trump. It's that simple.
Pastor, it is always great to have you with us. We thank you so much.
And Lou Dobbs is just like, oh, that sounds nice. Thank you for coming.
Wow. You know, that clip is just so much deeper than your standard run-of-the-mill, everyday political endorsement.
I feel really dirty watching people like this. I really do.
By a faith leader in America. That is go to heaven. Then remember, go by is not the example.
Ready to go.
Wait.
They can call.
How do I handle family members that call themselves Christians?
Right, that guy's doing coke. One does not do that with their nose on camera unless they're higher than a kite.
Go field American Bible Christianity in this country. Jack Hibbs is another one of these people. He actually says, just like John Hagee, that it will depend on how you treated the Jew, whether or not you get into heaven. Watch.
It's a beautiful day. Got my Bible. I'm ready to go. How do I handle family members that call themselves Christians but are into anti-Semitic conspiracy theories?
They don't read their Bibles. They can call themselves Christians all day long until... Wow. Matthew 25, go read it later. He's going to judge the world in his second coming based upon how did you treat my brethren? And he's referring to the Jews.
You guys, this is not right. This is just so bizarre. I mean, I am not going to treat anyone nasty. Okay? I don't have control over what my government is doing right now. But I am going to pray for any innocent person that is getting killed. And that goes for anywhere around the world right now. But you've got this going on in Syria, South America. I guess they're really gearing up and sending intel and all kinds of shit down there. Or in Venezuela. And Great Britain is pissed off because they have territories down there. I guess they're called territories. And, you know, they cut off their part of the Five Eyes intel down there because they're pissed off at Trump. Even though Trump has done everything they've wanted. So Trump is just foolish if he thinks he does certain things to certain people and they're going to like him more. That's bullshit. This guy is really strange.
Not the church. Watch out for any
or how much money we
sentiment.
When he says that we'll be judged on how we treat the Jew, he means we'll be judged. That's wrong with
Look at this.
Rule over all of to conquer the entire Middle East, to blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque and build the third temple in its place. Burn up some heifers, play in their ashes, rule over all of humanity. That's what Greg Locke wants. And Greg Locke, just like all of these other people, is just a shining example of everything that's wrong with America's bastardized Schofield version of Christianity. He's a bloodthirsty Zionist who worships Jews. He doesn't worship Jesus Christ. As a matter of fact, he baptizes members of his congregation, not in the name of Jesus Christ, but in a pig trough beneath the Israeli flag, donning the Star of Remphan.
That's just weird.
Now, we've talked about Greg Locke on the program before. What do we know about him? We know that Greg Locke is a compulsive liar. We know that Greg Locke is an adulterer. We've heard that Greg Locke has abused his kids in more ways than one.
Now, I want you to know that I'm talking like it must have been like 1, 2 in the morning. I was doing something inane, and I picked up my computer to do a search on this guy on a very private browser called Brave, and I could come up with nothing. No scandal, no wrongdoing, nothing ever reported. And I kept re-asking questions and wording them differently. And after about 15 minutes, I said, fuck it, I'll do, I was falling asleep. I just was like, okay, no. So whenever I see someone scrubbed like that, and then he's got a condo and he's bringing money in suitcases to a foreign country, I get very suspicious. But then this broad shows up.
And we even heard that he put his wife in a mental institution, his cast, like body and checkpoints in place to stop people like Greg Locke. No one can hold them.
Okay.
Jerusalem.
Look at this guy.
Greg Locke,
he takes
everyone
like
else,
dollhouse
and that's what this is all about.
it.
As a matter of fact, he does so much business with Israel that he has a condo in Jerusalem.
Look at this. Why would he take a bunch of microphones taped together and take somebody's dollhouse and smash it? This is a weird dude, and have a rock band on stage. And then he's messing around with people. His son is on fentanyl. His wife is on drugs.
Greg Locke, everyone else that I've mentioned here today, Mike Montgomery, Jack Hibbs, John Hagee, all Zion demonic ideology.
But this is the shit that Kirk believed in. All right.
Their homes, one who who Silk Road Satan, Jesus Christ. Christianity them for who
sick of this shit.
And a church, and I know that most, if not, Russian inside of that tree.
What I'm driving at is I think these people are operatives that literally create cults and mind control people to do things And it's an experiment. I believe that. All right, let's keep going.
But really.
So in 2020, the churches started to.
So this chick's name, listen to this. Okay.
She's attended Greg Locke's church. She's a former member. Her daughter dated Greg Locke's son. Her name is Jen Rockwell.
I questioned this. You know what? At first I thought she was okay. You know, I feel sorry for her. And then I watched parts of it a second time. And then I watched it a third time. And I thought, what the fuck? And Stu, where he starts talking about all this God spirituality stuff, yet at the same time he demonizes people. It just, I don't know. It just leaves it makes me feel dirty. I mean, I actually had to say St. Michael the Archangel prayers after I watched this one the third time. That's how it made me feel. Okay, let's go.
This week I sat down with her for an extended interview. It lasted for a couple of hours. Here it is.
So in 2020, the churches started to shut down, and my family and I were desperately looking for somebody to be bold from the pulpit. And
well, the first thing I wanted to point out was she almost looks AI. These are microbladed brows. Her lips are, well, they look injected because she's got the crooked mouth when she speaks. I don't know if this is true, but she's wearing extremely heavy stage makeup. That seems to me that somebody applied for her. I mean, it's just heavy, heavy, heavy duty makeup. To just sit down and talk as this godly Christian woman. I find that to be a little weird. Do you need all that? And she's kind of like green screened. I'm not saying I don't believe her, but I find her to be almost on the borderline of mentally ill. Once you watch some of this, like she's already there. She's already in sort of a weird matrix.
My sister drew my attention to Greg Locke. I saw a video of him ranting about gender-specific bathrooms and all this kind of stuff. And I liked the fact that he didn't shut his church down.
Gender-specific backgrounds? What the fuck do you mean? Like, what does that mean? What is with the brows here? It almost looks AI, but let's keep going. I apologize. I know now I'm going to start bugging you guys. But just look at this guy's body language and his hands and all that jazz.
So we started watching his church online remotely from our home in Arizona. At the end of 2020, a friend of mine reached out to me. Her name's...
By the way, I would like to turn the mic
Amy
off.
Kramer. She was...
This is bizarre. If you hear something in the background, I want to apologize. I'm just trying to do something while I'm talking here, and I do apologize. Hopefully it won't be too noisy. I've just got some stuff on my counter I've got to organize, so I apologize.
Doing a bus tour that was going from California to DC for January 6th. And she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I've got your pastor on my bus. Why don't you come down? We're going to stop at the Capitol in Phoenix. Why don't you come down and meet him?" So that was the first time I had met Greg Locke in person. I told him a little bit about my story, what we had gone through with our church and how they shut down and they required us to wear masks and I wasn't going to participate. And he looked at me and he said,
"I've got to tell you, I won't wear a mask in church. I'm sorry to say." And my mother was furious that many people were wearing a mask when my father passed away, because really, you didn't need a mask to go out in public then, or especially to go to church. And there was a sign on the door that said masks optional. My mother was so hard of hearing and so confused that she told me she didn't even recognize any of her nieces, that she knew before she even married my dad, because you have to understand, I'm one of the youngest people in my family. That's why I'm so into, that's why I say, yeah, I hung out with much older guys than me. When I was 12 and a half, 13 years old, there were older guys in my house while I was in bed. And I'm not even going to tell you, did anything happen? Absolutely not. My brother would have kicked their ass. But was there some weird stuff going on? And I heard a lot of noise, and one of the guys came in to block the door from the inside so that I didn't see what was going on. When they threw a guy in the bathtub, I don't want to even talk about it, because he was so drunk and he had a scholarship or had some was going to go to West Point or some shit. I had some really weird stuff happen. And, you grow up, so that's when I'm like 13 and then 14 and then 15, 16, yeah. And they're 5 years older than me. My cousin's 10 years, 12 years older than me. Was I around when a lot of stuff was going down? Shit, yeah. So I don't understand a lot of this stuff. I think people are a little bit hasty to call people pedophile. We don't know what happened, but I did know that I was taught right from wrong, good from bad. And if you know that and you're taught that every day in school, in a religious school, and every day at home, well, mainly in school and in church, you're going to know how to go out in life and learn and behave and live life. So what I'm hearing here are just confused people, but this is just me. Everyone has a different life experience.
Said, they sell houses in Tennessee. And I said, yeah, no, we've built our dream house here in Arizona. We're not moving. That was the first time I had met Greg Locke in person. I told him a little bit about my story, what we had gone through with our church and how they shut down and they required us to wear masks and I wasn't going to participate. And he looked at me and he said, they sell houses in Tennessee. And I said, yeah, no, we've built our dream house here in Arizona. We're not moving. The Lord then told me, you're moving to Tennessee for other reasons.
All right, here's where I kind of cross the line. The Lord told her she's moving to Tennessee from a dream house that I don't know what her husband does for a living, but she says she's a stay-at-home mom. So during 2020, 2021 or whatever, during the beginning of a really weird housing market where actually houses were becoming quite in demand in certain areas, she decides to up and pick up. And I told my mom, I said, do not make a move right now in this market. It's just not smart. But somehow God, this Greg Locke guy, she has a conversation with him for, I don't know how long it lasted. If they were on their way to DC and they were in Phoenix, I'm going to go ahead and assume not very long. And God somehow told her to follow this guy without knowing a damn thing about him. Wouldn't you say that that's I mean, okay, so right away, red flag, she's stupid. Go down there and spend a weekend. If your husband has this dough and you built your dream house there in a beautiful climate, according to my brother, I just looked up the temperature. He's out there right now. It's 80 some degrees. No, it's raining tomorrow, but low humidity. I don't know, guys. Right away, I'm like, oh, what, God spoke to you from where? A vacuum cleaner? I don't know. That was from some episode I watched of 90 Day Fiance. That this girl said God spoke to her when she was vacuuming a floor. Oh. I mean, I believe it, but come on, maybe keep that to yourself. I'm sure it didn't happen that fast. But this is what she says. So she talks her husband into upping from his dream house that he built. I'm assuming he's got a lot of dough. All right.
Outside of Greg's church. So at the end of 2022, my family and I moved to Tennessee. We bought a home in Mount Juliet where the church was located, and we started attending Greg's church. And I'll tell you, the church online is very different than the church in the tent. There's just things that you can't feel, you can't sense it because you're online. And the feeling in the tent was...
So she sells her house because she saw some dude online and God spoke to her. Look at her face, look at her makeup.
So overwhelmingly oppressive that I told my husband, I don't think I want to go to this church. And so we prayed about it, and the Lord told us, no, I have you here for a reason. Oh. You need to stay. You need to stick it out. So I had one of his employees come up to me and say, hey, I think you should be on our deliverance ministry. Because at the time he was kind of moving from politics to this.
So they are all now wearing this shirt. That is sus.
This deliverance ministry. And I said, yeah, no, I don't think I really want to do that. And the Lord told me, no, you need to go do that. So I started attending a class. It was a training that you had to do in order to be on the deliverance ministry, which was essentially praying for people and casting out demons. So I went through the class. It was 3 weeks, and then there was a fourth week that was a test. And I got through the classes, and I said to one of the employees, where are you guys getting this information on how you're casting out demons? And they said, well, we're getting it from this book and this person, and the demons are telling us. Oh. And I said, the demons are telling, like, you're talking to demons? Why are you talking to demons? And she's like, well, they give us good information. And I said,
Jen Rockwell, someone says that to you, you get the fuck away from them. You don't keep fraternizing with them. Holy crap.
The demons lie. And she said, no, well, they have to tell the truth in the name of Jesus. And I said, okay, if they have to tell the truth in the name of Jesus, they have to go in the name of Jesus. So why don't you just tell them to go? Like, why are you talking to them? And then I was realizing, like, when they were talking about deliverance ministries and how Greg had said, like, somebody that they were doing deliverance on told them that there were 6 witches in their church and they needed to kick out the witches. I thought, okay, so are you delivering these people from demons, or are you kicking them out of your church? So I started asking questions. And as soon as you start asking questions, like, you get targeted. But all these employees were telling me, like, Greg really likes you. And I said, he doesn't even know me. What do you mean he really likes me? Well, he talks about you all the time, and he's constantly, like, looking at everything you're posting on Facebook.
Right there. Plus, she's posting on Mark Zuckerberg's FBI app. The first thing after my accident, my attorney, who fired me, by the way, he didn't want to deal with it. He didn't have enough resources to help me. Yeah. So I have that too right now. That's fine. He can go fuck himself. And I hope he does. But excuse me. Scratch that. But all I wanted him to do was hire a forensic accountant and call me on the phone. I said, "Look, I'm tied up." I said, "If you send me something that's important, please email me, or excuse me, please send me a text or call me, because I'm not checking. I didn't even want to give them my email at first. I said, I need you to phone me. I'm not going to check that." But since they run a practice basically via advertising and email, they don't even have an office or a business card. I realized, they did me a favor. But let's keep going.
So then about a week later, he sends me a friend request on Facebook.
Oh, my pastor sent me a friend request on Facebook. I mean, that's weird. Like, is that why you go to a church? I mean, that's bizarre. Oh, he really likes your Facebook posts. I mean, I don't want anyone to know what I'm doing on social media. I just don't.
Look. And then he's coming up to me during church services, and he's like whispering in my ear, like, "Hey, I really like what you posted on Facebook." Then he started to comment on my Facebook pages, and people were coming up to me saying, "Hey, like, Greg never does that. He never talks on people's Facebook pages like that. So you've clearly caught his attention."
But that turned her on, or she wouldn't have kept coming back. I would have said, "Hey, bye, I'm finding another church." Instead, she keeps coming back. She keeps coming back for more.
And I thought, okay, great. I don't care. So that started to become a thing where people were watching me, and I can't really explain it. You're just always being watched. There's always somebody watching you. So in the beginning of 2023, Greg had an employee that was working for him, a man named Greg Borchers. Greg and his wife, Lisa, were employed. And something happened where Greg got really upset. Greg Locke got really upset with Greg Borchers and asked for his resignation. So Greg and Lisa resigned. They left the church.
What capacity, by the way, was Greg working for Greg?
Greg Borchers would say he was Greg Locke's right-hand man. His armor bearer is what he called himself.
Sure. Okay.
He was kind of in charge of security and kind of in charge of the operations of the church and all of that. And Lisa was answering phones, which was amazing because nobody answers the phones at Global Vision. People call and it just goes to voicemail and nobody ever gets called back. So that was concerning to me. Like, why are the Borchers were the first people that were removed from the church since I'd been there. And I'd heard stories about other people that had been kicked out of the church. And they were quiet. And I just couldn't figure out why everybody was quiet. But Greg and Lisa Borchers were our real estate agents when we moved out here. So they helped us buy our house. So I reached out to them and just said, "Hey, I'm praying for you. Let me know if you guys need anything." And I didn't hear anything from them for a month. And then they reached out to me to have conversations. So I was maintaining regular communication with Greg and Lisa. And at that point, I became public enemy number one. Because if somebody leaves the church, you're not allowed to talk to them anymore. Don't have communication. So
that sounds like more of a cult.
It's a cult. It's right. A cult. So Greg, in April, Greg Locke is very much a revival nut. Like, he wants revival because for Greg, it's all about the emotionalism and the hype. So in April of 2023, he did a revival. We were having a revival night. I jokingly call it the planned spontaneous revival because he kept saying it was a spontaneous revival. But I was like, no, this is planned. It went on for about
Someone tell me what a revival is. Let's see. Let's see if Brave comes through for me this time. Whoop. I don't know what this means. Revival. Come on. See, these are the types of people that Trump has advising him right now. By the way, an unexpected and unstructured outpouring of spiritual activity, often characterized by a prolonged worship, prayer, repentance, and deep sense of God's presence, rather than a planned event. Unlike scheduled revivals, spontaneous revivals emerge organically, sometimes beginning during a regular okay. Are you offended if I say, can't you kneel down and pray and do that in your own home? Or do you need some dude running around ranting and raving to do that for you?
Oops. 3 weeks. And in that period of time, Greg found out that I was still friends with Greg and Lisa. We had been seen in public having lunch. And so Greg started ranting on a Wednesday night about how he knew that there were people in the church that were still hanging out with Greg and Lisa. And he started making up all of these stories about Greg Borchers stealing money from the church and coming out against a sweet old lady that went to their church, and just crazy, insane stuff. And the whole time, Greg's looking
Was any of it
directly
true?
at
I mean, could he prove any of that? Were they actually suspected of stealing from the church?
He said he had video of it. Nobody's ever seen the video. And Greg Borcher's version of that story was that he was told by Greg's secretary at the time to go into the offering collection and get out cash to give to a deputy that was on site. They paid this guy $500 a Sunday to come and just park out in front of the tent for, whatever reason, optics. And so Greg went in and got the $500 cash to give to the deputy. And they supposedly got him on camera getting this cash. But there was a reasonable explanation for it. And once we made that public, Greg Locke quit talking about it, quit saying that Greg was stealing money.
The deputy likely could have confirmed that he was paid in cash.
Absolutely. And has.
Doesn't Greg have some other kind of private or alternative security measures that he takes there?
Well, he has a security team, and my husband was actually on the security team. There was an instance when we first moved here where it's hard to say what I knew then versus what I know now, but what I know now is that his wife had fabricated this story that there were gang members coming to shoot up their house, and they needed security to come and park out in front of the house on 8-hour shifts. So there were 2 private security and it's just basically church members, right? So they had to go park out in front of the house, and then one of the security team had to follow Greg everywhere he went. So my husband had to go follow Greg all around town wherever he went to make sure he was safe. But we later found out it was all a lie. It wasn't even true. It was optics.
So there is an actual news story, and I remember this.
Yeah,
This is
there
why I
is.
was
It's
looking it
all
up,
over
that
the
there
internet.
was somebody that actually shot at Greg Locke's Tennessee home. And there's plenty of news articles that, here's one of them. Anybody can Google this and you can see all the different results, but there's a lot of these that are up here.
Correct.
Are you saying that actually, in fact, never happened? That his
No,
house
the
wasn't
shooting
shot up?
happened. I'm saying the reason why the shooting happened, and that was a completely separate story. Like that shooting happened in what, September, October of 24. So it's hard to, I don't want to confuse people, but
you are
in the beginning of 24, around March, we found out that Greg was telling people, well, let me preface and say this. When we left Global Vision in July of 23, Greg had us followed and filmed in public, found out that we were meeting at a restaurant in town. He had one of his church members film us, and he took that film and what he saw on it that very day to the Mount Juliet Police Department and filed a knowingly false police report accusing us of sex trafficking children, and presented this picture that he said we had a 6-year-old boy that was duct taped, which was not true. So Mount Juliet Police Department called us to be interviewed. They talked to my husband first because Greg said it was my husband that had the picture. So my husband goes in, tells the story, what happened, what was going on. We put that out publicly, the police report, put it out publicly to let everybody know this is what Greg does to people that he's trying to scare into silence when they leave his church. So a few months later, maybe 6 months.
Yet she, quote, sold her dream home to move to be close to this guy and kept associating herself with him and his people. All right, I'm going to pause it and see if we can pick it up. Hopefully we can. Okay. Oops. Okay, guys, I apologize for that. Let's try to pick it up. I'm sitting in I don't know, like I suppose you call it a chaise lounge chair. Let's see. It's from the 20s. And it was in mint condition. The movers kind of messed it up a little bit, but I put it needs work on the springs, but it's so comfortable. And I'm feeling comfy. And I've been in quite a bit of pain. And these people are talking about faith and religion. And I finished my prayers for the day. But one of the things that we say in Catholicism is, when you hit these tough spots, this is a test of faith. And at that point, you are carrying your cross. And it's sort of like, let it be done to me according to thy word, thy wishes and thy glory. And that's what keeps me going. So these people are into some stuff that, I don't know. I don't expect anyone else to understand it. My mindset, and I'm not even forcing it on you or asking you to. I just want you guys to know where I'm coming from when I watch stuff like this. Now, I know these guys are, these two people that we're talking about here are sincere about their thoughts, but then I'm going to be honest with you. Stu, I think, is looking for redemption based on his, quote, bounty hunter job. And I get it. I have friends that have some roots in Minnesota. I don't know there is so much weird stuff going on right now. But when I look at this woman, the way she is made up is quite ghoulish. Let me know what you think with the microbladed brows. And Amy, and Sacred Blue, if I'm not saying that properly, I do apologize. I really appreciate your comments. Whenever I see people that have sort of the lips that are, people have lips. You try to rest your mouth. You speak. I've told you I've had to go to a speech therapist because of my vocal cord issue, which I was supposed to have a second surgery on and never did. And I'm not one to yell a lot, but I had nodules, and then I had burst a blood vessel because I was still smoking at the time, and I went to my boyfriend at the time had won picked up the phone, called some hard metal radio station, won 2 tickets to Indianapolis to go to the it was called the Metrodome back then, I think. Or no, I don't know, it was the Superdome or something. And I had seen the Stones there back in the 80s. And we went down there, and it was a Packer game, and I was still smoking. I didn't sleep a wink at this hotel. I didn't really like it. I was sort of, for some reason, it got boring and uncomfortable for me. We traveled in a group then. He won the tickets, and then everyone was to board a bus at some like really quite nice bar downtown. And I remember I had to park in some lot and then run to this place. And they were getting ready to leave, and all they did was serve drinks, and people were smoking weed, and I was smoking cigarettes back then still. It was in 1997 or 96 or 97. And, you know, I had been working all week, driving 1,000 miles, blah, blah, blah. I was totally worn out. And this was on a Saturday morning, I believe. And then the game was the next day, and it was a group thing, and I didn't know these people. You know, and I was sort of in a place where I was always constantly thinking about work and what I had to do. And then I'm on this bus with a bunch of people that like weren't really my cup of tea. But I just went with it, you know. And anyway, if you've ever been to Indianapolis, at one point, they have something called Union Square. And it's rather interesting. So, okay, let's keep going. So I have no idea why I was telling you guys that. But if you notice my voice is weird, that's why. Okay, so let's continue. I don't understand. I notice this when women have lip injections. So let's keep going.
We found out that Greg was telling people that it was
It's cracking again.
One of his teenagers that filed the report. And so we filed the Freedom of Information Act.
Every single time. Where are we at? We're at 30:05. Let's try to reload it. Every time.